Earlier today, they had a mandatory shelter in place in Port Neches, Texas. I'm sure many of you are already aware of what occurred last week. They had multiple explosions at a chemical refinery plant. What many of you don't know is that there's a lot more to this that is not being talked about. That is extremely important. And I know if this was my family, friends, whatever, I would like to know what's really going on too. I live only about an hour or so away from this plant. All around me, we have chemical plants. Explosions do happen. Controlled let-offs, there's different things. You know, whenever you're making petrochemical stuff, things do occur. But this one's different. There's a lot more information that points to it not being an accident. And with what's currently going on, they had to shut down schools for the rest of the week, and they sent out over 100 people to test what's going on in the air, and there's butylene being released into the air, which is absolutely a carcinogenic, meaning it causes cancer. So if you are in the area, I wouldn't take a chance, I would leave. But what I want to talk about is the people that are very likely the ones that are responsible for this. The explosion occurred at a place called the TPC Group, okay? But they were bought out, the one that purchased this Texas chemical plant, okay? And so most people won't look in too much deeper who owns Motiva. Aramco owns Motiva. I'm sure many of you remember just about a month ago, there was this random explosion in Saudi Arabia at an Aramco facility. So let's go through this right here. Motiva Enterprises said August 19th it has signed an agreement to buy Flint Hills Resources chemical plant adjacent to its Port Arthur, Texas oil refinery, kicking off its push into petrochemicals. Who is Motiva? Well, Motiva, the U.S. refining arm of Saudi Aramco, plans to operate the chemical plant while it builds 3 giant petrochemical units within the Port Arthur complex as part of the $18 billion expansion of its operations along the U.S. Gulf Coast, said 3 sources familiar with the agreement. Motiva and Flint Hills confirmed the pending deal after Reuters disclosed it, and everything else has been kind of secretive. The purchase was not disclosed. The purchase agreement was not disclosed. In April, Houston-based Motiva announced it would refurbish 2 empty historic buildings in downtown Port Arthur. Let me explain Port Arthur for anybody that is not from there. It's not like a city. It's just essentially an old town. It's a port. There's essentially just oil and gas. It's kind of like here. We don't have, we have casinos and stuff where I live, but it's essentially everything is ran around the petrochemical industry. So it has also filed documents with the state to build a $5 billion steam cracker that would produce ethylene. But here's the issue. I know many of you know about, and if you don't, please check it out, my reporting on Venezuela for the last 2 years. Well, by now, they were supposed to kind of have that deal done. And when I mean deal, I mean the regime change and the coup that they were attempting. on the duly elected president of Venezuela. Well, since that hasn't occurred, many of the oil industry companies are in a bit of a pickle because they are no longer, see, what the plan was to be able to control that. And they were going to be having all that money and oil flowing into their pockets. Not only, okay, I won't go down through all of the information because this video very well will just be suppressed. That's why I'm going to try to just put it out. The Saudis should not, I mean, this is just my opinion, they shouldn't be around our petrochemical industries, because if they're going to hypothetically, right, blow up their own chemical plants for the insurance money and put the lives of my friends and family, and likely many of your friends and family's lives in danger, there should be some questions being asked. I thought it was very interesting how very quickly these EPA these violations from the EPA came out. That doesn't even make sense. And when that came out, I was like, they're trying to cover up something. There's no doubt. It come to find out that because of what they produce at this plant, they didn't even have to have these certain inspections or whatever the case may be. So, you know, normally they're trying to look at what occurred and all of these things, but they try to just automatically put, you know, these violations as the culprit, because I'm sure people at that plant are asking questions, and people that live around there are asking questions, especially now that they're being bombarded with butylene, which is, you know, carcinogenic. So the thing is, the people that need to be questioned and held accountable, and people need to make some noise about, is why in the heck have 2 Saudi petrochemical plants just blown up within the last month? Especially one that was just bought 2.5 months ago here in the United States. That was a massive explosion. Many people could have died. People may have, and maybe we're just not hearing about it. It doesn't matter. If they are going to do something so reckless, should we continue to allow them to even run these petrochemical industries? I say absolutely not. We need to also look at who our real allies are. We don't have many anymore because of the shenanigans, the regime changes. Venezuela was our ally for a very long time, until they decided that they didn't want the U.S. to control them anymore. And not just the U.S., the Rothschild central banking system. This is very important. That is essentially one of the main reasons. They are the only sovereign Christian nation still standing without a Rothschild central bank, without big oil controlling them, without big agri and big pharma down there. And so they've been punished tremendously for it, which is sickening, to say the least, that so many of us just act like it's no big deal and just continue to believe the mainstream media talking points that I have over and over proved to be absolutely false. in regards to Venezuela. If you don't understand all of that, I will put the Venezuela playlist at the end of this video and you can click on it. But what I want you all to really think about is what kind of sociopaths we have owning these businesses that our friends and family are working at. Not only that, when something like this happens, it's out in the atmosphere. It's where's the environmental people? You know, all of these kids, all of these people that live. I mean, heck, it could even come all the way over here. This is a huge concern. They're just hypothetically blowing up their own refineries for the insurance money because they weren't able to overthrow the duly elected president of Venezuela. So everybody needs to like, share, and subscribe, or, you know, at least share this, because this type of information will not be put out, because for some reason we are allies with a literal dictatorship, all the while calling countries like Venezuela dictators just because they won't sell out to big oil and the central banks. They literally are horrific people. I'm not talking about Saudis in general. I'm talking about the king, whoever runs that, and how they treat their women, how they treat, you know, the common people, cutting their heads off if you do something wrong, journalists being murdered. It's a real issue when those are the type of people we believe to be our allies. It's insane. And to think that the only sovereign Christian nation still standing without a Rothschild bank and without selling out to big oil is who we consider our enemies. Anyway, guys, y'all like, share, and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.